Tottenham Hotspur have been scammed by Morgan Gibbs-White and Nottingham Forest. Now, two things before I start this video. One, yes, I'm annoyed. And two, no, it's not a coincidence that Gibbs-White has miraculously just decided to sign a new contract with Nottingham Forest, despite already having agreed personal terms with Spurs and agreed to come down and do a medical 2 weeks ago now. This entire situation has been an absolute mess from start to finish, and Evangelos Marinakis has finally got his way. He's managed to grab hold of Morgan Gibbs-White and somehow convince him to sign a new contract at Nottingham Forest, which of course voids that £60 million release clause that Spurs activated a couple of weeks ago, and it means that he will be staying at Nottingham Forest next season, playing either in the Europa League or probably the Conference League if Palace win their appeal, and refusing to make that step up in his career, which is fine if that is what he wants to do, but I genuinely do think there is something fishy going on here. Tottenham and Morgan Gibbs-White seemed like a very, very good fit from my point of view. He's someone that elevates the squad, the opportunity to play Champions League football, the opportunity, of course, to win silverware as we did last season, but yet he has instead extended his contract and come out and done the strangest interview I think I have ever seen from a player who has just extended their contract with a club that they so-called love and have felt the warmth of since they arrived. I mean, this is frustrating, and as you can probably tell, I'm annoyed. I'm as annoyed as you guys are because we've wasted the last 2 weeks trying to push this Morgan Gibbs-White deal through and get him over the line as a Spurs player. We fly out to Hong Kong today to start our Asian tour. There's less than 3 weeks to go until the Premier League season starts now, even less than that until we play in the Super Cup against PSG, and yet here we are again messing about in the transfer window and not able to get anything done. So we're back to square one. Tottenham all of a sudden have made one decent signing in Mohamed Kudus, and we are still so far behind schedule in terms of what we need to add to this squad for Thomas Frank to actually stand a chance next season. Now, I think everybody was really excited at the prospect of Morgan Gibbs-White becoming a Tottenham player. I think the player himself was really excited about being a Spurs player, and you could tell from his interview, if you haven't watched it, that he did, standing next to Marinakis, and some of the stuff he said, it just doesn't add up. Now, I'm not trying to suggest that there's a conspiracy theory going on there, but there is no coincidence that all lines of communication were cut off to Spurs after triggering that release clause. Nothing was said for 2 weeks, and then out of nowhere he signs a contract extension. Now, it could be the case that this was Marinakis and Nottingham Forest's plan all along, was that they were going to give him so much money that he decided to stay, but all Gibbs-White has done is signed a 1-year extension, and it's really, really hypocritical and ironic that he's come out and talked about how much he loves the club, and the main thing that he said thank you to Marinakis. He's really bigged up the owner of Nottingham Forest Football Club and talked about how he really believes in the project and ambition that he's shown in the direction he wants to take the club in. And yet, all he's done is signed a 1-year extension. So his contract still expires in 3 years anyway. So if he was that convinced by the project, why would he only pen a 1-year extension? It's bollocks, and he is still probably going to leave next summer. It might not be to Tottenham now, but I can guarantee you he will not be a Nottingham Forest player next summer, because I genuinely just think that he's been backed into a corner. You know, it is so fishy, everything that's going on behind closed doors. And this may just sound like it's coming from a bitter old Spurs fan, and to an extent, you're probably right, but there is no denying that the aspects of this deal and how everything has played out is absolutely comical. And now, there's a reason that Nottingham Forest are one of the most hated clubs in the Premier League, and I think that they have used this transfer has proved that tenfold. I think the way that Marinakis has gone about handling the situation and the club in general has been comical, pathetic, amateurish. Spurs have been given a release clause that they believed was fully valid. They thought there was no difference in engagement terms. They didn't think there was any confidentiality problems or anything. So they've activated this release clause, and somehow Marinakis has still managed to say no and keep hold of Gibbs-White. It just, to me, it doesn't add up. And yeah, at the end of the day, the big losers are Spurs, then very, very closely followed by Morgan Gibbs-White, because Morgan Gibbs-White has turned up the opportunity to play in Champions League football next season. And if he doesn't want to test himself at that next level, it's completely understandable if he doesn't back himself to be able to perform and do that. And Forest fans have hit me with that, oh yeah, you know, we beat you home and away last season. We finished 7th, you finished 17th. It really doesn't matter. Tottenham are a bigger football club than Nottingham Forest. I'm not having anyone whatsoever tell me anything different. Tottenham won a trophy last season, a major European trophy. Okay, Forest have won a version of the Champions League a couple of times ago, 50 odd years ago. Nobody cares about that in the present. Spurs are silverware holders as it stands. The opportunity to obviously play in London for a global brand as well. It just makes no sense. And yes, I'm furious about it. I've already told you that, but I don't think anything that I'm saying is a lie. Finishing 7th in the Premier League and not winning anything or playing European football that season, it genuinely doesn't matter. And I do think that Forest are going to struggle tremendously this season. Obviously, Nuno, I think he's had a good season, but we know, Spurs fans firsthand, he's not the best manager in the world. Playing 2-3 times a week, Forest next season, with the squad they've got as well, which is incredibly light as it is, I don't think they're going to be able to handle the demands, and I think they're going to finish a lot lower than Tottenham Hotspur next season. That is for sure. And Morgan Gibbs-White in general, he's a very good player, and I do think that he would have suited Thomas Frank's system very well. I know Thomas Frank was very keen to get this deal over the line. He would have been very, very well loved at Spurs, but I think the telling sign is that he never pushed for a move away from Nottingham Forest. There was never a hint or an indication that he was going to force his way out of the club, and the line being towed is that he didn't want to upset the fans or ruin his relationship with them. I think another thing that could have come from all of this is that him and his agent are just playing for a contract extension that is much bigger than Forest were offering initially. Now, Forest have been trying to get Gibbs-White to sign a new contract for the last year and a half, and he said no. And this could well have been a ploy. His agent may well have leaked this release clause to Spurs to pay to actually get Forest to fork out a contract that he was willing to sign. And now I believe Morgan Gibbs-White is Nottingham Forest's highest earner and potentially their highest ever earner. And yeah, that is no coincidence as well. So, I mean, from that perspective, I kind of respect it and I kind of understand, his agent's motives behind that. And I'm sure after this video has been published, more information is going to come out and we're going to find out the nitty-gritty of the deal and everything that was going on behind the scenes. But you can tell from Morgan Gibbs-White's face in the interview that he did, talking to Marinakis and talking about his contract extension, I don't think he was that keen to do it. And, there's a lot of stuff said about Marinakis and the stuff that he's been involved in and, everything else in between. I'm not going to say too much on it, but, he doesn't look like a happy bloke, essentially. So at the end of the day, he's missing out. And Tottenham, of course, are frustrated. Fans like myself are really annoyed about just wasting all of this time. But what Spurs cannot afford to do now is they cannot afford to just sit on their hands, because we've still got so much work to do in the transfer window before the season starts. And we now know that there is at least that £60 million sitting in our back pocket ready to be spent. Johan Langer has been sitting doing nothing while we're trying to get this deal finished. He needs to get a shift on. Hopefully Fabio Paratici is back involved and helping push transfers over the line, but we need to find an alternative and there are no excuses for it now. Rightfully Thomas Frank deserves the players to be able to take this Tottenham team to the next level and to be able to compete on all fronts. And Gibbs-White, sure, he would have been a really nice signing, but there are still plenty of very, very good options out there that Tottenham could very easily go and sign. And at the end of the day, you don't want players at the club who were umming and ahhing about joining you. You want fully committed players who are going to join you. And to be honest, while I think Morgan Gibbs-White is really good, I don't think he warrants that level of sort of respect that he's not a world-class player to the point where you think, we just hope that he comes. He needed to want to come. And, if he wanted to come, then he wouldn't have signed that contract extension. He would have handed in a transfer request and he would have forced his way out. And he didn't do any of that sort of stuff. And, I wish him all the best. Not really. That's just what you say, I guess, isn't it? And yeah, I'm interested to see how Forest do now this season, and I'm fully expecting karma to maybe come and bite them back in the backside. But we will see about all of this. It's going to be a very, very interesting couple of games against them next season. I'm looking forward to it. I know this whole thing is so frustrating, but we still have time to get stuff done, to bring in other players, bring in alternatives, and hopefully just get the fans back on side, because rightfully everybody's frustrated about this, and fingers are being pointed once again at Daniel Levy and the directors and everyone who's involved with the transfer business, and it needs to be better. We need to operate better than this. So it's a very, very big lesson for Spurs. And by the way, if we did trigger this release clause and Marinakis refused to let him go, then sincerely, it could well go to court and there could be repercussions. And yeah, I think that would be justified from Tottenham's perspective, personally. But I'm not going to say any more on it right now. Ultimately, we just all have to move on and we have to see what the future brings instead. Forest and Gibbs-White, they can sit and remain at that level. I mean, he's never going to play Champions League football with Nottingham Forest. That's just not going to happen. The highest they're going to get is Europa League. And I'd be shocked if they replicate their finish again next season. So, yeah, good luck to him. Maybe another club will come back into him next summer, but maybe he's just completely missed his opportunity and wasted some of the best years of his career. But it's what he wanted, and we move on. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my little rant. I know there's a lot of bitter sounding comments made, but I'm just using it as a platform to express how I'm feeling. I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way as me. But yeah, let's move on. Let's bring someone else in, and yeah, hopefully then I can make a video about the next transfer, whenever that may be, hopefully sooner rather than later. But thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. I will see you in the next one. But for now, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, come on, you Spurs.